Smash Factor.
Ripping driver, going for it.
Oh my goodness.
How about that tee shot?
That is crazy how far that is.
Wow. John Daly, take a back seat, big fella. How about that drive?
That's an aggressive line. That is beyond long.
Look at this, he's just driven the green. He has just driven the green.
I guess hello world, huh?
Welcome everybody to week 19 of the 2021-2022 PGA season, the Players Championship, quote unquote, the fifth major. We don't wrap up the Florida swing. We still get Valspar next week, but leg 3. And the first 2 have been very challenging, as well documented yesterday and throughout the evening, with maybe the API was a little too challenging. I'm not really, it's hard for us to say, being on TV, watching on TV. Obviously, I enjoyed it. I enjoy those type of tournaments probably better than Birdie Fest, because I do think it's a test. Now, you know, the schematics of certain not rewarding good golf shots and stuff like that, I'm not going to get into it really. I'll let those guys sort it out. I think we're in for another challenging tournament. Not only just because of the course and the volatility there, but probably maybe the even worse weather than we've seen first 2 times now. But we do get a little bit of rain with it, so it could soften up a little bit. We'll get into all that in a second. We'll do a little recap first. DFS for me was no bueno last week. Man, I liked Hosler. He was the dock of the week, but I didn't put him in my main. I went Higo over him. And that basically cost me. I only had 3 lineups last week. Was still focusing on a little bit more of the 222 Qs and stuff like that. So overall, a little bit lighter bankroll, and did 3 lineups plus some Qs, mainly because I knew what I had this week and wanted to save a little bit, going a little bit bigger this week. And really, that was a break-even move. If I put Hosler in that main lineup, I don't do anything great, but at least breaks me out even, because I would have cashed. I had a bullet in the 555. I had the 222 single entry, stuff like that. That one move, I think, was 60 points difference. I think Higo was 11 points and Hosler were 71 DK points. So, you know, process was still close. That was my 5 of 6, and I had a 6 of 6 in the 3 max stuff I did. Just didn't do much on the weekend, like most lineups. I mean, when you get, I think some people, there was some, not concerned, but they're like, I don't see how 6-6 is that high, but it's just math. I think I plucked out everybody that was a 0.5% owned or less. And if you remove those, which most of those are the 6K guys, lower ones for sure, I think we had 78 of like 99 guys left or something like that made the cut. So I mean, just pure math there alone. When you get down to that, so 78 brings in a lot because you do the T65 and ties, and really it's kind of like we've seen not maybe not that high, but we've seen some high 6-6s at the Masters, because you wind up having some of the similar deals. If you get a high T65, or I don't remember, the Masters is maybe not 65, but whatever the Masters is, and you get a lot of those guys that just aren't going to make it, and you know it. You know, the older guys that play every year, stuff like that. You could have those high 6-6s, and the weird thing here was, you know, because of the backwards, all these guys went on the weekend being tougher and tougher. It really put an emphasis on the finishing points and stuff like that. So if you didn't have people up there, you know what, I did for a little bit, but they just didn't get there. Like Rory was in that lineup. Hosler, who was up in the top 5 for a while, obviously finished top 20. Willie Z was in that lineup. So, you know, he's top 12 at one point, I think was the highest he got up to. I mean, obviously after Thursday he was up there. I'm talking about on the weekend. You know, if he could have made a run, made a little bit bounce back Saturday, had a chance. You know, if he could have shot 2 or 3 under on Sunday, he could have been up there. Obviously had a terrible back 9, but then he just fights. You know, got it back 3 straight with the birdie streak on the back 9. But it's just like that, especially when you do a 3 lineup deal. I mean, you're condensed so much that no excuse. I just didn't do well, do better type of deal. But betting made up for it. We hit the first round leader, Rory, 25-1. We hit Scheffler. I released it Friday night at 100-1 on the outright. Had Hostler pre-tournament, plus 550 on the T20. He barely got in there, but he did. He held on tight, so we got that T20. I did have someone DM me about, I bet it somewhere where I guess dead heat doesn't exist on those. Make sure if you have options that it always does, because it makes that bet that much more valuable when if it's a tie, they still pay it out. If your book doesn't and the odds don't justify it, man, I would try to find somewhere else or do, or reach out to me and I'll let you know if it's still a good deal, because especially T5s, that comes in a lot, but T20s as well. It can make a big difference. Matchups, hung on, went 6-5-1. So profitable week, very good week on that. Covered up all the DK losses and we move on. Shout outs of the week, Two-Con Man 2 turned $9 into $175. I think he may have had a more, but that was a screenshot I saw in the Warrior Room. Yancey Russell ships for $3,000 on DK. Sean Mundell turns, and this was a screenshot, I think he may have had more, but the one that I saw in the Warrior Room, 80 into 800. That's great. Tons of people had the Scheffler play and the Rory first round leader. So pretty good week overall, all things given. I think a lot of newer people to golf, even some of the guys around me, some friends of mine, a little bit excited Friday night because the 6-6 is like, yeah, well, bad news about that, because 6-6 and 5-6 was like 70% or something insane on some contests. So it didn't mean 5-6s were dead. I saw our boy Adon had a sick 5-6, and I think it was Hodges is the one that wound up killing him. I think he took like a 9 or something and missed it. He was winning a lot of that stuff, the 222 and some other things. But his 5-6 held on because he finished with 3 guys inside the top 4, I believe. Didn't have what he had Friday night, but he still made like 8,000 or 9,000. Got a 222 ticket, so I'll see him in there. So, 5-6s weren't dead, and I kind of mentioned that a little bit to the community, just because if you get guys up there, and this is going to be important coming this week potentially. The finishing points mean so much. I'll get into that in just a second. Promos right now, Smash, 20% off any package right now, includes a 7-day risk-free trial. So this week, if you sign up right now, or whenever you're listening to this, you're basically going to get TPC week for free, which is going to be huge. It's going to be a big week. We're going to have it covered wall to wall. And then let's say you do a monthly package. You don't want to start out annual. I get it. No big deal. You're going to get Valspar, WC Match Play, Valero, and the Masters your next 4 weeks into it. So that's pretty good timing to get in here if you want to check out golf. We also got UFC covered, NASCAR, and all that. I'll get into that at the end of the pod. Big things coming up, doing a lot of things behind the scenes. I'm excited about this year. We've had a great start in many areas. Looking forward to it. Come join us now. Smash 20% off. You do get the first week free. I've actually had people, we've had tons of new signups here lately, and people are like, hey, I didn't see a charge when I signed up. I was like, we don't charge you. If you cancel, you never get charged. Obviously we run through the process, but it won't charge you until that free trial is up. That's automated. Nothing to worry about there. Prize Picks announced to the community Friday, signed a deal with them. Use the code GUP. The link is in the description here as well. Get a $1 for $1 match up to $100, 100% match up to $100. I'll have some prize picks out, especially on my Wednesday pod. I've been giving them nightly when I do showdown stuff, or if Samson's doing the showdown stuff, I'll throw it in there with my betting stuff. Some money to be made there. Talked to them for a while Friday. I like what they got going. Tons of options in prize picks, not only golf. I've seen it now that we're affiliated with it. I saw a lot of stuff in the GC Warrior Room, UFC, NASCAR, NBA, all that stuff. People talking about that, so that's good things. Monkey Knife Fight, I'll have my picks out as well on Wednesday. Link is in the description there if you want to get in on that one as well. GUPS, GUPS, that one has the S in it. $1 for $1 match up to $100 as well. Rate and review us on iTunes. We'll be doing, obviously, I was trying to get it announced tonight, or today. I won't yet because I'm waiting on a few final things. I'm doing this at lunch right now. Finalized for the March to the Masters type deal we do every single year. But when you rate and review us, you will get on those drawings. I'm going to do another drawing sooner than that. So anybody that ever rates and review us, I keep them in there. You get pulled in. You're in the drawing. If you don't remember, if you have, go do it again real quick. I'll make sure you get into it as well. You'll want to be in it for the March to the Masters. That's always our biggest giveaway of the year. Subscribe and like this video on YouTube. That is the other way to get in for free. In the comment section, tell me your favorite play in the 10K range. Very tough to pick through those 5 this week. I want to see who you are liking there. That'll get you into the drawings as well. Listener League winner last week, Simons, 447. Good score. Hovland, Billy Ho, Kokrak, Seabez, Kirk, Ryder. Kind of like the Kokrak one, because I did see a lot of people Friday night into Saturday kind of high on Casey and a little low on Kokrak. And I think there was some, that was one of the kind of pivot type plays. Where do you go there type deal? And obviously Kokrak barely made the cut. Casey looked solid. That did not end that way over the weekend. Not going to put a lot into that, and I'll get into that more when we get into TPC. You don't want to put too much into a bad weekend. Things can get off the rail, and you just kind of lose it. But, Kokrak came through again, had a good weekend, especially Sunday. He was one of my favorite plays Sunday. Or actually, I think it was Saturday. He was a good play of mine. He went really well. I think he bogeyed last hole, but he had one of the better rounds Saturday. I filled in for Sampson Friday night, so I liked him on Saturday. Did well Saturday, and then didn't do bad Sunday. I mean, he climbed the leaderboard. His other picks were solid. Didn't have the winner and still got there. Mentioned, so this is a smaller contest, right? Gups Corner deal, 400 people. Link is in the description, by the way. Let's fill that up quick. If we want to get this thing big for the Masters, we got to fill this up quick. 14% of his points came from the finishing places. Now you go look at the $20 one last week. So the big, I think it was $250K up front. The guy that won it, 18% of his points came from the finishing placement points, almost a fifth. When you get into, these birdie fests where 20, 22 under, it just doesn't, that's not the case, right? You get a lot more streaks, you get a lot more eagles potentially, things like that those can outweigh. But when you have these tough contests, like we may see this week and what we've seen the last 2 weeks, man, those finishing places do mean a lot. And the reason why I say that is we got to put some emphasis on not only guys making the cut, which in some weeks, so, a scoring fest, perfect examples like Cam Davis, I talk about a lot. Man, at a certain price, if he makes the cut, he can get up there and return his value. And it's not because it's just make the cut. It's that he could finish 45th, but his scoring could be like 22nd. And that's why I've always emphasized that. Here, if we think it's going to play tough, similar to last week, that may not do it because you're not, inherently you're not going, if it's tough scoring, you're not going to get the streaks. You're not going to get a bunch of birdies. You're not going to get the eagles per se. And so having those finishing plays is going to matter much more. And I think it just changes the mentality of hair. We'll talk through it the next 48 hours of, all right, can I see this guy not only making the cut or being alive, but can he be top 20, top 15 and flirting up there type of situation? It may lead naturally to, do we get more balance this week? We'll talk through all that, but I think it is something to think about, especially because we think it could play a little bit tough this week. Speaking of this week, we'll get to it. TPC Sawgrass up there by Jacksonville, Florida. It was moved to May in 2007. Then back to March, starting with the 2019 tournament. So if you're looking at history, 2019 and 2021 were the only years where it's been in March recently. Obviously, 2020, the first round was played, then canceled because that's when COVID spiked when it first kind of came out. Prior to 07, it was in March for 30 years. So this isn't a new thing for them. It's just from 07 to 19. So for about 12 years, it went to May. I will wait and look at the 2019, 2021 heavier because there are significant differences from March to May in this type of area. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. With the move, I mean, the biggest deal is going to be the greens. So it's just not warm enough right now, even where I'm at, for the Bermuda have grown up and grown through yet to be pure. And so you're going to see overseed. Some people may think, well, you just played in Florida last week. I know that doesn't seem like a far, but it is a bigger difference. Still some cooler weather, which we're going to see here on Saturday. So you're going to have overseed. It's going to put, to me, it'll put, I mean, you'll hear POA, trivials, bent. To me, it'll put, if you're looking at comps, a lot closer to bent, even though it's not bent, than it ever were POA. And mainly because the POA that you'll pull on most of your data is going to come from like West Coast POA. And this is not going to be that. It's not going to be bumpy. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be more pure. And you get a lot more north winds here. In May, it's normally warmer, south winds, all that kind of stuff, just like similar here to Oklahoma. You still have time, right now it's freezing here. It was 80 last week, on Friday, I think. And was 36 this morning. So we still have that time of year where those cool fronts can come in. It makes 17, 18 play harder. It also makes the ball not fly as much because of the colder weather that you just didn't see as much as May. I'm not saying ignore 2018 and earlier, but I will put more emphasis on how the players play in March versus that. Of course, par 72, 7,189 yards, 4 par 3s, 4 par 5s, Pete Dye course, we know that. Water everywhere, famous par 3 17th. But the final 3 holes in general lead to an exciting finish for me. The weather is going to be the big story. I don't really like doing the whole getting stuff out early Sunday because we got pricing Saturday. To those who do it, albeit to them, that's great. To me, there's just so much information from that current tournament, especially the way it looked up the conditions maybe playing. And then I looked at the weather in advance. Obviously, a lot can change, but it did look like the weather's going to play a pretty good, impact in here. Right now, it doesn't look like potential wave advantage, maybe slightly. PM AM is where I'd lean right now, but nothing yet. We'll definitely zone on that more come Wednesday. You got storms moving in Tuesday night. 40 to 50% chance late Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday's 80% chance of rain. Friday's 90%. Saturday's 85%. It's all warm weather and south winds until Saturday when the cool front moves in Saturday afternoon, dropping the temps by 20 plus degrees, and the winds will be changing out of the north. So you'll see it that morning potentially be, a little warmer south winds, and it's just going to move all day long to colder and out of the north as the day goes along. Again, we're 5 days away, could change. Saturday, mostly rain early, and then it's out of there and gone for the rest of Saturday and Sunday. So once we get through like Saturday morning, the rain's kind of gone, the tournament's going to go. But those winds that come through with that cool front could see 30-mile-an-hour gust, but some steady 15 to 25-mile-an-hour winds right now, which that's more important than the gust as far as affecting the players at times. If it's constantly moving and going, it throws fits to them, especially here where there's a ton of water, again, similar like we've seen the last 2 weeks. More water. I think this is more water penal than last week, but not as much as Honda, if that makes sense. Sunday, no rain, but we'll still have those north winds. The high is only 53, and I think Thursday it's close to 80. So you can see the difference. We'll see later on. It's going to play like 2 different courses, Thursday through early-ish Saturday, and then the rest of Saturday and Sunday. I think the cut won't be, because I don't see the winds are too bad Thursday and Friday right now. We will have some rain. We'll have to see, is it going to be more lightning type thunderstorms? Right now it kind of shows that. Could we see possible delays? Potentially. So you might have 90% chance of rain, but it may be 2 storms that come through and that's it on Friday per se, or even Thursday, where it really doesn't affect play that much. It definitely makes it a little bit easier to play, moisture on the ground, stuff like that, a little softer. But I don't know if it's going to be just, I don't show much, significant wind those first 2 days. Now, 10 to 15 miles, but that's kind of normal at this course. So not a big deal. I think the cut's going to be fairly normal. So even +1 type of deal. But I do think Saturday is going to be super tough. Now, we can't bake that in, trying to build, for one day and get, your first goal is going to be get as many through the cut as possible, but you also want to be thinking about who do I think can make a run, survive Saturday. Sunday doesn't look near as bad. Some wind there, but it's just going to be cooler on Sunday. No rain, no nothing like that. So in difference from last week where Sunday may even been worse than Saturday or at least equal, I think Sunday will allow these guys to come back a little bit and score some. So I think we're going to see, anywhere from -9 to -11 type winner this week. Note, winner gets $3.6 million this year. That's big for one and done, stuff like that. 18% of the pot, the $20 million pot, which is almost double from last year, is the biggest pot on tour now this year. So remember that when you're thinking about one and done, that you definitely want to use one of your big boys you've been saving for this tournament. A ton of money up there. $3.6 million is a ton. So keep that in mind. Winners in the past, JT -14. Obviously, Matsu was first round leader 2020 before it got canceled. Rory -16. And then before, so that was in March. So you saw 14 and 16, both one-stroke winners that year. Let's see, Webb minus 18, Siwoo minus 10, Jason Day, Fowler, Tiger back in 2013, Kuchar, Garcia way back in 08, some runners up, Garcia, Poulter, Fowler, Furyk, Garcia, Poulter, Usti, Charles Schwartzel a couple times, Xander, Westwood. So you get a little bit of the Euro flavor. I mean, you can see different kind of people, and you'll hear that a lot this week. Anybody could win this for sure. In March, the last 2 years, we have seen two of the elites win it so far, Rory and JT. So small sample size, not putting a ton in that, but it is something to note. Key stats for me: good drive, stroke gain irons, great approach, opportunities inside 18 feet, bogey avoidance, and par 5 DK scoring. New to the course since 2016, 17 guys. We do have more of a full field this week. We'll be at 144, I believe is the number for this. So again, a little bit harder to get 6 to 6 just naturally than what we saw last week. And you have the strongest field of the year probably. So you got to keep that in mind. Like I mentioned, if you remove those guys that, just had very little hope of even making the cut last week, in the 6Ks this week, you have some pretty strong, competition down there that have a chance. So definitely keep that in mind. Salary ranges, we have 5 in the 10K, 7 in the 9K, 10 in the 8K, 41 in the 7K, and 80 in the 6K. Bryson withdrew yesterday. And then earlier before I came on, my stuff had already pulled it in, but Kevin Na is withdrawn. They're expecting their third child this week, and Taylor Moore got in. The rankings I posted earlier had Taylor Moore in it. So we've already made that change there. Sweet 16, if you're new, I do my favorite 3 in the salary ranges plus a bubble boy. I do my fade of the week, sleeper of the week, gut feel plays of the week, top 5, and 2 long shots provided by Monkey Knife Fight. Give you then we kind of wrap up and get out of here. Get back to you Wednesday when we go deep dive and final thoughts. 6K or 9K and above for me. Obviously, ownership will probably be talked about, and we talk about that a lot every week, leverage and all that kind of stuff. But just off the hop, and this is very early, I don't know how much. Maybe we see a couple spots where there's some super high, or not super high, but higher than the rest. But definitely up top and probably in the 9K range. I think it's going to be really flat. The 8K is to me, pretty loaded, pretty solid range. That I just, a guy like Spieth will probably get talked. He hadn't done much here at all, especially since 2016. He'll probably be low owned. But outside of 1 or 2 spots, everything's gonna be pretty flat. And what do you mean by flat is, the spread from the lowest to the highest owned in any given range. So tightness of range is going to be pretty close where, you're really going to have to make decisions on who you just think is going to do better. It's not going to be like, well, I'm going to wait to see from Rory and Rahm or Morikawa versus, Hovland, who's going to be higher owned, or JT versus Hovland, JT versus Morikawa with all $300 apart. I don't know if there's going to be that big of a difference where you go, it's massively, this guy, maybe could have said Hovland would have been the lowest, and he was one of the lowest last week. Until he, stormed up there, had second. I say stormed up there. He was up there a lot. Finished second. Rory kind of faltered a little bit on the weekend. Seems like this setup this week, especially if it's a little bit softer, may do better than them. Maybe people, after what he said or whatever, I don't know. I don't put too much into that. I really think it's going to come down to picking who you want versus super good leverage. Now, if you want to go like a Spieth, because I think he will be massively the lowest owned in the 9K, I can certainly see that. For me, I'll be interested to see where we think Rahm and the talk of it goes into. Putting continues to struggle. Tee to green is still probably the best or one of the best in the world. I ran a model earlier, or maybe it was late last night, and I looked at the top 75 in the world, and I looked at overall putting year over year. Through this time, and I think I maybe fast forward in a little bit. And it was definitely, and I'm working on it. I hadn't released it yet because I definitely want to validate a little more. You know, and one question that could be out there, and there's some other guys that definitely are in this class, would be, you know, do the green books not be in there? Who's that affecting, and how do we? It's all anecdotal because I don't know if we'll ever know unless people specifically ask, "Are you struggling not having the books?" You know, I don't know. But if Rahm, now that he's 11-1, so it's not too much. You know, if he happens to be like the third highest owned, do you go there? Do you give hope he gets hot this week? Potentially. I mean, I could see that. I really like the 9Ks a lot, that I may only play one guy out of the 10Ks and kind of build that way. I think Morikawa is going to be the highest right now. I just hear him all over the place, but we'll see. It's still early in the week. For me, I'm going to start with Cantley. He burned me here last year. I had a tremendous 5 of 6 would have turned out to, and he was the only one that missed. You know, then he went on to have a great year. You know, obviously won FedEx, but was working through some things at the time. You know, he's 14 in my stats, number 1 in my putting model. Mixed results here, but he's still, you know, 36 in course fit, 22nd, 23rd, then 2 missed cuts. Ironically, I guess one thing that kind of would make me pause is that top 23, 2 years in May, and then the 2 years in March, miscut. I'm not putting a lot into that, but just something to note. A 33rd at the Genesis last out. Did not play last week or at the Honda, so a little bit rested. You know, 5th in bogey avoidance, 7th in par 5 DK scoring, 22nd in good drives, 25th in opportunities inside 18 feet. You would think this is a good place that suits him. You know, I don't know how high any of these guys are going to be owned. Right now, I'm not factoring ownership just a ton because, again, I think it's going to be, you know, 1 to 3-4% here or there. That it really comes down to who you truly believe can do well. Pressers are going to be important this week. Read them, listen to them, seeing how they feel about the week in general. My second one's going to be DJ. I do think he could be a little less owned at 9,800 just because of everybody that's around him. He's not coming in with, you know, tremendous form, but he has played here okay. You know, made the last 5 cuts in a row, 28, 12, 17, 5th, 48. So last year was his worst. Outside of that, top 28 or better. Form's probably the biggest deal. You know, he's a guy that I just, you know, I'll trust to kind of show up. He has had a little bit of a break. His last tournament was also the Genesis. He missed the cut there. 9th in par 5 DK scoring, 1st in great approach, 6th in good drives, 17th in opportunities at 18 feet, 37th in bogey avoidance. Just everything I like. He's mid-pack on the putting deal. He's another one you could kind of whisper, do the books hurt him or not? I don't know if it hurt him or the caddy. I don't know how much he was studying those books. And I do remember him talking once. He said he used it more for how he wanted to approach his approach shot to go in than he ever did on the green. So I don't really think that, but DJ's a guy there at 9,800. Could be a hair less owned than some of these other guys in this range that get a little bit of an advantage there. And then Rory, I think I will go back to Rory unless we hear everybody's going back to him. You know, he's $300 cheaper than Rahm. His last 5, I mean, he has a little bit of a mix here. 12th, 35th, miscut, 1st, miscut. So, you know, he's not, you know, where he's guaranteed to make the cut and all that kind of stuff here. Anybody can miss the cut here. That's one of the things about TPC is, you know, it can get anybody. There's just so much trouble out there. It doesn't take much for you to get off and you're having to fight back. 3rd in par 5 DK scoring, 13th in bogey avoidance, 39th in opportunities inside 18 feet, 4th in good drives. And we know the stats are going to be there. He's 10th in the putting model. It's just more about ownership and stuff like that. You know, he's the one I do like out of the 10K range the most right now. I could easily go to Rahm if everybody's going to kind of pass on that. JT probably will be off on. Morikawa, I don't mind. He's 3rd in my model overall. I just don't know if I want to get there if everybody's going there. We'll see. And then Hovland, you know, he may be the forgotten one, 10-1, so he's the cheapest. I don't mind going back to him by any means. You know, did well last week. Probably should have had him. Again, only built 3, so it's hard to get anybody in. But the rest of those guys, I'll kind of look, see how the week goes along, see if anything changes my mind. Rory's the one guy I kind of got my eye on right now up there. And then my bubble boy, it really would be Scheffler, because now that he's won at 9,200, you know, his last 3 tournaments, a first, a 7th, and a 1st, and a top 10 here at that price does do well because you will get some good finishing points. Top 5 even better. He missed a cut last year. Are people going to go to him? Are they going to say, he certainly can't do 3 out of 4, right? I'll be interested to see on him. If not, it would be Matsu. 9,600 would kind of be that guy. again, 7th, 8th, 22nd, but he has had 2 missed cuts. We know he was leading this by far in 2020. Again, that would have been this time of year, March. His bogey avoidance is horrible, one of the worst in the field. But outside of that, pretty good stats. We know that all for him it'll come down to putting and kind of that. Can he avoid the big numbers? Kind of see how he gets. He had a good run on the weekend, especially Sunday. I think he got clipped at the end, but for a while he had the best round of the day. But I think Herbert maybe came in and got 4 under. And then maybe Hatton. There was a couple that maybe got him by 1, but he did finish good Sunday, which I like to see. He finished strong going into the next week. He didn't play in, easy conditions, maybe not the worst Sunday, but still fought through it in those conditions. Always a guy at that price I'll take a look at. 8K is my favorite range this week. I'll be interested to see how that goes. I could build a team out of 8K almost. Some risk there, fading a lot of the 9 and 10K for sure, but Willie Z, 8,900, kick it off there. I'll go back to him. I don't care. This is his, he had 8 starts back in like 2014, 15, 16, 17, one-off type deals. I don't know if he had sponsor exemptions or whatever, but since he came out of the Korn Ferry Tour, so 3 years later, this is only his 34th start. I think because he's been on the top of leaderboards, top 5, top 10s, top 5s, seconds, all over the place. I think not everybody, but some people feel like he just never wins but he's always up there. But he's literally played less than 1 full event season. He's 34th start. Normally there's about 40 something tournaments a year. So, although he's been up there, he still is kind of young. I get it. People don't want to pay 35, 40 to 1, 50 to 1 type numbers. But the price is definitely great this week. All that given last week, I think he shot, I don't know what he shot on the front 9 Sunday, like 9 over or something crazy. And then, when you think he's done, he birdies 11, 12, 13 in a row, kind of gets back in. It still finishes 38, 26 at the Genesis. First time here last year ever, 21st. I just like him. This is when I kind of looked at how he putted here last year, good enough to be there. And certainly if it's going to be harder conditions, higher scoring, I'll put him there. 8,900 too. Like definitely a little bit of a price discount from last week. I'll go there. I don't mind him at all. 8,900. I'll be there. Neiman, 8,400. Don't mind him at all, especially if we start getting wins and all that. He hits that low ball. We saw it a lot at Genesis that I don't mind him. 29th here last year is the first time he was here. 11th in my 6 main stats. He's 11th, 12th, 11th, 27th, and 31st. Gotta love that. There's no black eyes there by any means. Putting is really where it'll come down to for him. 8,400. Love him as a potential bet this week. I think he's a guy that could be there Saturday. I mean, he missed a cut at Honda, but he was almost first round leader at one point. Just got sideways a little bit. One point he's 4 or 5 under, and just had a bad Friday. Missed the cut. Not going to hold that against him. I like him this week. I like his ball flight if the wind picks up as well. Next, Sungjae. Plays every week. We know that. Did get a little bit of a break a little bit ago, but right back last week, a 20th. Him and Willie Z actually played 3 rounds together. 17th here last year. His first trip out, he did miss the cut. His last 3 tournaments, a 33rd, a missed cut, and a 20th. Driving, if he can get the ball in play, he's 4th, in opportunities inside 18 feet, 8th in bogey avoidance, 18th in par 5 DK scoring, 19th in great approach. Love his iron play. Really, keep the ball in play, and then can he putt enough out here to contend at $8,300? Love that price. I'll be there. Berger is my next. He's the bubble boy, $8,800. My only fear with him, or only thing with him, is he going to be the highest owned? Had he closed that deal at the Honda, which would have gave me 3 straight winners, probably would have been. But I also don't know if he'd have been 8,800. He may have clipped up into the 9K, and he may actually been in the 9K had Bryson withdrew before pricing came out. So you're kind of getting a discount there. 5 straight made cuts here, 2 bookend top 10 finishes, then 3 in the middle were 65th, 57th, 67th. So, a little bit of roller coaster. But you're going to see that everywhere here. There's very few that just play this course awesome every year, no matter what. Obviously a 4th at the Honda. He's been doing well. We know it's going to come down to putting for him. Can he get the putter going? It was horrible on Sunday. And then ownership. That's why he's a bubble boy for me. Is he going to be the most popular? If he is, I'll easily spend $100 more for Willie Z, or drop down as well. 7K range, plenty of options there this week. Got to kind of remove I talk about the sticker price a lot. This will be the reverse sticker price where, people appear cheap because of what they've been recent tournaments where there wasn't as strong a field. So you got to still kind of, put that all in and be like, all right, he's cheap, but let's still compare it to the field and I get super happy and dissect it a little bit. I like Chris Kirk. I rode him last week. He was in, I think, 2 of my 3 lineups. 7,000 seems like a great price for him. His last 2 tournaments, which have been the 2 tough ones, a 7th and a 5th. So however he gets it done, he's a grinder and he's been right there. If I remember right, which I think I do, because I think I was up there pretty far in the Millie Maker last year. I want to say he was either in the final group or next to final group and just blew up here on Sunday. Finished 48th, but I'm fairly confident. I looked it up before Wednesday that he was right there going into Sunday, and just had a horrible. It was a horrible round, but I can't remember if it was just the back 9 or what. Before that, had a miscut, then a 12th, a 46, 56, 48. But 7K for a guy that legitimately, we always say, can't make the cut, but legitimately could be, especially if it plays tough. We've seen it the last 2 weeks. He can be there. He can compete in a 10 under or worse type tournament. I think he can be there at top 10 at that price. It gives you a lot of, upside there. Cam Young, rinse and repeat for me. I just don't have to say it no more. I've been on him forever, not getting off of him. Said it last week. I don't know if people will continue to get off of him, but last 3 tournaments, which are 3 pretty damn hard tournaments, 2nd, 16th, and 13th. He just continues to be there. Sunday, he doesn't go away. Had another good Sunday this week comparatively to everybody. 25th in stats, 23rd in recent form. His putting comes and goes, right? And that's kind of what'll be the difference in him making a run to potentially win it or not. I mean, he's good off the tee. Number 1 in the field, good drives, 23rd in par 5 DK scoring. Bogey avoidance is a little bit, but I see this a lot with him. You saw it, especially if you played him a showdown Saturday and Sunday. A ton of bogeys, but he definitely gets the birdies. In a showdown for sure, but something like this, that'll matter, and he can fight him his way up. 13th, you give me a 13th this week at 7,200 with probably more birdies than most. I'll take it. I like him. I'll go back to him. Corey Connors, showed some life last week. A little concerned that he may get popular. A 41st and a 7th here. He's only played twice. Again, had a bad streak going heading into API, finished 11th. He putts better on this kind of mix than normal. 22nd recent form, 5th in course history, or course fit, sorry. Stats aren't going to pop well, but you got to remember on a guy like that, when he goes through those bad streaks, which helps guys helps guys like me that I'll do models, but I also will note stuff. That's why I do the deep dive. That's why I get to the final rankings to go, yes, but is he peaking now different? Not peaking, but is he going back on the upswing? So where's he at in his bases versus, the model says, he's been horrible the last whatever. Yeah, but we saw life, right? And so when you see life last week, coming in this week, we know his ball striking. For $7,300, he's a guy that I definitely would keep my eye on. And then my Bubble Boy's Gooch. I had him pinned for this week. So I passed on him last week thinking, okay, get back into groove. No one was really on him. I should have went there. But then he goes out and he's leading it going into Sunday, falls completely down the front 9, shoots 7 over, I think. But then fights back on the back 9, gets a 7th place, 5th here last year. Only reason why he's a Bubble Boy is how chalky is he going to get at that price. I don't know, I don't know if he will really too much because, and Kenny and I had a great conversation about this on E9. So if you want to go listen to it, if you're a member, there's a lot of options here in the 7K. And so it's really going to get spread out. There'll be someone that gets up around that 13, 14. I doubt very few, if any, get well over 15%. Most everybody will be 15% or less. You'll hear differently in the industry. Kenny and I talked about this in depth. I listened to a pod last week, and I didn't say the name even on me and Kenny's E9. It's not about that. It's just, and I was at the gym actually, and I just started marking on my phone at 23 guys they had mentioned as chalk potential chalk this week. There's just not that many. It just never comes out that way. And if you want to go check out that E9, even if you missed it, that part is a good discussion. There just won't be, especially in a tournament like this. Soft pricing, spread out. He could be popular. That's why he's a bubble boy. But is it, he's 15%, the next is 13, then 10, then 9? I don't know. We'll see. There's plenty of options down here that you can go. And then you always get that, he's going to be popular, so everybody gets off of him and everybody gets back on type of deal that could happen that Wednesday night, potentially that, who knows. So I like him. We'll just see, how much he gets talked up this week at that price tag. That's the only reason why he's the bubble boy this week. 6K range to wrap this up. Mito, 6,700, maybe my favorite play on the board, just all things given. Last two tournaments, Genesis and Honda, a 15th and a 30th, number 3 in the field, bogey avoidance, 12 in good drive. Then the rest of the stats are just just above average. Nothing sticks out, but in that 40 range. So for this price, he is a guy that, yes, I think he can contend, make the cut, and then get up there. Be that last piece of your lineup at 6,700 to get inside that top 30. Potentially with a solid lineup, the other 5 that he could be there. And I don't want to say he's safe. No one's safe here, but he's definitely, I love the price. I like him. We'll see if he gets talked up a lot. I'm sure he'll get mentioned some, but I don't see many in the 6K range, even flirting with 10% this week. Keegan, 6,900, great track record here. 35th, 60th, 7th, 16th, and 29th. 5 straight made cuts, an 11th last week in those conditions. I like that. We know he's a great ball striker. Can his putter do enough to keep him there? Did last week. A higher scoring week like we'll see this week, that 8, 9, 10 under winning it bodes well for him. Where he doesn't have to have as hot of a putter to contend. We saw that last week where he finishes 11th. 11th was probably like +1, +2, something like that. So, it's not like he just lit it up, but comparatively in those conditions, he did well. So I like him, $6,900. Munoz starting to show life again. Played him in Showdown a couple times, I think, $6,700. He's only played here once, a miscut. Not going to hold that against him per se. 21st at the Genesis, 26th last week. He's just a guy as he starts streaking and getting hot. And I don't know how much I want to live in the 6K range this week, because I do think there's a lot of great balanced guys in that 7, 8, maybe even 9s that I don't need to that much. But Munoz is a guy that I take a look at, especially MME wise. And then the bubble boy, I don't think he's going to be too popular, but he's now continued it. He was the dock of the week for me last week, and it's Hostler. Still not going to be a guy. Speaking of, I mentioned earlier, I can't remember who it was. Enough of those old rounds, everybody that just runs models and lives by the models only are still going to peak in there. So he's like 58th in my total model ranking right now. But, if I shorten it to the last 16, I know he would shoot up, right? And that rolling stat deal that I do for my deep dive helps me with that. His last 3 tournaments, a 48, a 16th, and a 20th. So Honda API, tough conditions, 16th and 20th. He grinds out. He does not look pretty, man. He scares me watching him. It's probably why I went Higo over him, which I regret now, obviously. But he gets off the tee. He struggles there sometimes, but he scrambles like no other. 16th in bogey avoidance, 10th in par 5 DK scoring. Good drive is 21st, and the reason for that is, we label good drive as it may miss the fairway per se, but he still gets up and saves, gets a good score. Now, great approach, he's 105th. Stroke gain irons, which is approaching around the green for us, 92nd. So there is some hesitancy. That's why he's a bubble boy. I wouldn't want him. He has played here 3 times, 46, miscut. So those are really the only reason for the bubble boy. MME wise, he's probably in my pool. Ride that heater a little bit that he's on at that price. Fade of the week for me right now would be Hovland. This could change by Wednesday, and I always update that on the Wednesday pod. If it does, I'll obviously let you guys know. I'm just interested to see how hot he is off of last week, or people feel burned because he didn't close it. I mean, he got a 4th at the Genesis, 2nd last week. So he's playing great. He's won overseas recently. He did miscut here last year. Across the board in the 10K and above range, he rates out the worst for me in most everything I'm looking at. But he has that it factor at times. So just for me right now, if he's going to be popular, I'd just rather go elsewhere this week. I'd pay $200 less for Cantley all day and twice on Sunday right now. Doesn't mean he's a bad play. You can't play them all this week. And that's a big mistake people were making this. I talked about it with Kenny last week is, you get all this eye candy and these stickers, like, oh my God, look at all these prices. You start spreading yourself out so thin in your pools that which is easy to do when you see all you want a little bit of everybody, and it's tough to make tough cuts, but that's part of this game, DFS that we play. Sleeper of the week for me, and I don't know if I would have thought I would have said this, but Palmer. So I'm taking a little bit of the conditions into effect. He can play in the wind well. He's a roller coaster here, a 23rd, a miscut, a 23rd, a miscut, a 17th. So he's either finished top 23 in the tournament or missed a cut. So you got that. Recent form, he ranks 32nd in the field for me. Stats are just average to the field. He's 67th overall, but going to be low owned, won't probably be talked about a lot. We know he's scared or not scared. He has horrible history at the bear trap of the Honda. I don't think I'll correlate that straight to here. He's got 3 good finishes, but I'll see how the deep dive comes out. But he's a guy that, these things let's just say he makes the cut, barely. He's a guy that can grind out Saturday and be sitting there Sunday. That's some of the guys that I'm thinking about when I'm like, who can make it through that bear on Saturday, assuming everything stays the same on weather, which we know it could change. But he's the guy I got my eye on as a sleeper of the week, less than 5% potentially owned. I will update all that on Wednesday as well. Gut feel plays for me. I'm going to go Kokrak, 7,300. I'll go right back to him. Missed the cut first or 2 years in 2016, 2017, then a 46th, 47th, and a 9th. So it seems like he's learning how to play this. He's 19th in the putting model for me. Last 2 tournaments, 26th, 26th. I like everything about that. Next is Seamus Power, $7,200. Miscut, but playing better than what that shows, I think. A 35th here in 2019, hasn't played since. 6th in bogey avoidance, 21st in approach. Great irons, struggles a little bit on the par 5s, only average there, but all the way around, I kind of like him this week. $7,200. He's a good pivot off a lot of potential, like Gooch and all that kind of stuff that could be chalky. Garcia, go back to him this week. I watched a lot of him. He was on, obviously, I think the first 2 days with Rom. He was in my bullet as well, and thought he was dead to rights. Then he climbed back in it. Had, I think, 2, maybe 3 eagles on the week, at least 2. Finished 38th overall. 5 straight made cuts here: 54th, the 30th, the 70th, the 22nd, a 9th. His game just seems to be peaking. Not peaking, but doing well compared to what it's been as a baseline. He's 9th in good drives, 11th in great approach, 25th in bogey avoidance, 29th in par 5 DK scoring. All comes down to putter with him, right? But again, if we're forecasting by the time Wednesday night gets here, okay, we think 10 under are going to win this, 8 under is going to win this. He's a guy that helps. I think that's where he doesn't have to try to get to 18, 19 under is beneficial to him. So a guy that may struggle to make the cut, but if he gets through that weekend, can definitely rise, and that's what he did last week. I don't mind going back to him. And then the last one's KH Lee. Definitely not a name I thought. Well, I won't say I wouldn't think, but kind of surprised me there. $6,300. He's a cheap guy that, he's just a guy I think that has upside. 42nd last week, 48th at the Honda. So he made the 2 cuts that were hard to make. 26th at the Genesis. Well, I guess API wasn't hard given that, how many people made it. But, finished okay. 30th in this putting model for me, 41st here last year, just enough there for a guy that's $6,300. I don't mind. I'm not going to dip a lot in the 6s, but I'll take that if I'm trying to cram 2 big boys in up top, or maybe 3 9K guys. Maybe I'm gonna go 3 9 and 2 8s with that 6. I don't know if that works out, or 3 8s, 2 9s with a 6. I feel like I'm building a full house of cards or something there, but he's a guy that, for an MME type deal could definitely be in the radar. Top 5 the pop and 2 long shots brought to you by Monkey Knife Fight. Like I said, Gups get you 100% match, dollar for dollar, up to $100. Link is in the description. I like DJ 40-1, Willie Z 50-1, Scott 50-1, Neiman 50-1, Gooch 66-1. Those are the ones that pop for me, kind of living in that 30 to 60 range. And these lines will move a lot. I saw the world jumped on Brooks early this morning. I don't mind Brooks. I don't think I mentioned him. $8,600. I'm kind of hoping, because everybody and their mom bet him, that they kind of go, all right, I bet him, so I'm not going to really that'll be my hedge against playing him in DFS. Maybe it doesn't happen, but because I do think he's peaking, he's on the uprise for sure. His 4 tournaments here, okay, 35th, 16th, 11th, 56th, so he's got upside. He's kind of coming in better than what most would think. The betting number was there. I'm interested to see how much he gets talked in the DK world or DFS world, however you want to see that, for sure. My 2 long shots, Cam Young, 130-1, and Mito 200-1. That Mito number, maybe you don't like the win, but he should have some good top 5, top 20 numbers as well that I'll take a look at. One and done, I'll have my top 5 out Wednesday on the Deep Dive and Final Thoughts pod. We'll cup with Gup. Like I always do, I pick 3 from there. Join us Wednesday. We've been going around a little bit later in the evening. Obviously, I got real-time job going. So does Kenny. So we try to get that in as early as we can to still make it valuable. It's been great. The last 2 he did. I think he's good for this week. I know there's a week coming up that was going to be sketchy for him, but I think he's good. Don't forget, Smash 20% off. Get you a free 7-day trial. We got tremendous golf tournaments coming up. With Valspar next week, match play in 2 weeks, which is, I think we have a huge advantage in, our community, Valero, and then the Masters, the big one. So it's going to be a great month. If you join the monthly now, you get those 5 tournaments, basically first week free, and then the month starts there. UFC, Tommy goes 8-5 on his picks this past week, 28-8 over the last 3 weeks. Another profitable betting night when you look at him and Ryan's stuff that they did. Saw plenty of green screens in that. NBA's back up daily. They're grinding to the playoffs. NASCAR stays solid. As Ryan and Jimbo, along with probably anybody in the industry that's worth anything, try to figure out these cars and the impact of them and how to strategize for DFS and not only betting. I think Ryan's been super close on a couple bets. He's made plenty of bets, hit plenty of bets as well, but had 2 where he missed by 1 spot each the last 2 weeks. So those guys are killing it over there in NASCAR. And we'll have you covered for golf all week long, showdown, all that kind of stuff as we do per usual. Looking forward to it. A big week this week. Big pots out there. Huge pots out there. I got the 6 tickets in the 2222 Millie Maker that I've won. All in, I invested about $1,100. And so I'm at $13,000 in tickets at $1,100. Now I will say, I originally it was different this year because the first time I went for it, I hit 3 or 4 that first weekend, and that makes obviously I'm going to spend more at that point. Normally I wouldn't just say I'm going to spend $1,100 on qualifiers and satellites, but when you get off to that hot start, you got to kind of take advantage of it and get as many as you want. Looking forward to it. 6 doesn't mean anything. Especially at this course and the way this thing's going to set up, anything can happen here. A guy with 1 could win just as easy as a guy with 30, which I think is max. So going to be a long week of grinding. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to chatting in the community as well. Come give us a try if you haven't already. We will see you on Wednesday. Thank you. Have a good night. Have a blessed evening. Be safe out there.